Welcome to Lord and Richards Radio, a program that will enable you to become more financially independent and prosperous from a biblical point of view. Tune in each week to learn how to prosper through good markets and bad. Now, here's our host, Colin Richards, your biblical investment advisor.
Hi, friends. I'm glad to be with you today on Lord and Richards Radio. I'm Colin Richards, founder and president of Lord and Richards. We're a team of advisors who are dedicated to helping people just like you retire financially independent. And we're doing that every single day. On this show, we're discussing investing and planning from the perspective of key biblical principles, a little bit different way of looking at money. We also talk about how to use methods and strategies that will enable you to prosper through both up and down markets. And that's so important in today's volatile world. I'd love to chat with you. My team and I would love to help you, talk to you about your specific questions regarding retirement and saving and investing from a biblical point of view. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com. Hey folks, this is Colin Richards. I'm president and founder of Lord and Richards, and once again, I'm excited to be with you on this edition of the Lord and Richards Show. And today we're continuing our discussion of biblically based retirement freedom. We started that in our previous episode, and I'm going to come back to that today and really try to fill out some of the things we didn't have a time to get to last time we met. And so as we moved through the topics, just by way of a quick review, we talked about what it means to really enjoy being free in your retirement from a biblical standpoint. And as we discussed what retirees really want and are looking for, they're looking for the fulfillment of those deeper needs, beyond food, shelter, clothing, safety. It's about love, fulfillment, relationships, happiness, ultimately. And we went through a biblical principle: as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. God's grace is amazing, and it has variety, and we're a steward of that, right? Whether it's our possessions, our time, our talents, our treasures, whether it's the relationships we have in life. And so in order to truly be happy and fulfilled in retirement, a Christian needs to have, number one, freedom of time, number two, freedom of health, and number three, freedom of wealth. And so as we dug into what it meant to have these three freedoms, we reminded you that that's what Lord and Richards is all about, right? We're not just an accumulation-focused broker, financial advisor, fiduciary, whatever the terms you hear thrown around. We are a fiduciary, we are a financial advisor, but we're so much more. And as a matter of fact, our clients have discovered that we offer all of those additional comprehensive planning services that are designed to make you free in retirement at no additional cost over what you pay for your typical accumulation-focused advisor. And so what we do is we help you remove the obstacles, financially, specifically, to time, health, wealth, and happiness. And I talked to you about how important it is to find specialists who can get you there, right? When my wife had her knee replacement, we didn't go see a brain surgeon. We saw somebody who focused in on knee replacements. They were a specialist in that area. And we're specialists in these areas of freedom of time, freedom of health, freedom of wealth. And by that specifically, I mean, when it comes to freedom of time, getting rid of the obstacle, which is no longer having to work if you don't want to, and having instead a solution of abundant income. And this is an area of specialty. People might say, oh yeah, we can get your income. But it's kind of like a brain surgeon saying, oh yeah, I can cut open your knee, right? It's a great person, highly qualified in their field, but they don't really focus on that. Do you want to do that, or do you want to have somebody who has done this with thousands of people, right? And that's what we've done at Lord and Richards. And we want to zero in on what does that mean in order to have freedom of time. We have abundant income. What does that really mean? Well, it doesn't mean relying on, depending on non-guaranteed, non-abundant tools for your income. Now, nothing wrong with these tools. They can be used to supplement, add to your income, but we want the foundation of your income to be guaranteed, right? Where you're not worried what's going to happen to my income. To be abundant, right? Where you can take a lot of income, not just scrimp and save in the years when you're supposed to be enjoying yourself and investing in the lives of others, investing in your family, investing in yourself. And so one of those non-guaranteed, non-abundant tools we talked about last time was withdrawing from your portfolio. Yeah, well, we all have these investments, right? We're depending on those for retirement. But what happens is so many people spend their life, maybe with an advisor or without one, building up your IRA or your 401k, and it's all about accumulation. It's all about just getting to the day where you feel like you've got enough to retire. And by the way, Lord and Richards can help you determine, do you have enough scientifically? But once you determine that, then how do you make sure that you never run out? Well, portfolio withdrawals are what everybody tells you to do, but frankly, they're not the best plan, because down markets in your portfolio can create a severe problem. I call it dollar cost ravaging, not averaging, but dollar cost ravaging when you withdraw while your portfolio is down. Therefore, doubling down on your losses. Imagine the poor people who retired just before 2008-9 and experienced that massive drop that most people saw. Their 401ks became 201ks. And if they were following the rule, which at that time was called the rule of 4%, let's say they had $1 million, whether they had that or not, it's just an easy number for us to do math. If you had $1 million saved up, you're taking $40,000. Well, first of all, that doesn't feel very rich and abundant, I'll tell you that. But if the market cuts that $1 million down to $500,000, your $40,000 is now an 8% withdrawal rate. And anybody will tell you that's not sustainable. I don't care whether they specialize in this or not. They know that. And so how do we account for that? Well, economists came into the picture and they said, yeah, folks, that rule of 4% is now the rule of 2.7. Yikes, 2.7? You've saved $1 million and you're living on $27,000? And they say you can push it to 3 if you're okay with a 70% probability of success. Oh my goodness. Do I want a 70% likelihood of making it to the end of my retirement without running out of money? So not an optimal solution. Sometimes folks will say, well, I've got stocks in my portfolio that generate dividends. My advisor or I personally have built up a portfolio that generates dividends. That is, the company takes its excess earnings and distributes them to you. Well, first of all, they're not guaranteed, okay? For example, have you ever heard of GM, JCPenney, Kodak, Citibank, Barnes & Noble, Washington Mutual? These are all companies where people who were relying on their dividends were deeply disappointed because those companies slashed their dividends. And in some cases, our offices in Denver are located in Highlands Ranch, used to be called Lucent buildings, 3 big buildings right there at C470 and Lucent Boulevard. Now that name's changed to Kendrick Castillo Way, a name that honors one of the young men who gave his life in a local school shooting. We're proud to have that address. But those 3 buildings used to be named for the company called Lucent. Well, Lucent is gone, right? So what do people do with it? Oh, well, I went somewhere else. Well, wait a minute. Not only do those companies not have to guarantee the payout to you, but they could fail and take your money with them. So that's not a great solution. It might be good to have some dividends as a supplement to your income, but not a primary reliable source of income. A lot of people say, well, Colin, I've got CDs. We jokingly call them certificates of disappointment, right? No, it's called a certificate of deposit, and they're really safe, right? Really safe, backed by the federal government, FDIC insured, but their rates are really low historically, so they don't keep up with inflation historically. So your income may be guaranteed in the sense that you've got a guaranteed rate, but it's not abundant. It's not abundant. Right? So I'm going to take a break for us here for just a moment and talk to you about how important it is to come in and learn about the guaranteed abundant tools that only an income or distribution specialist, which Lord and Richards is, can provide for you. And I'm going to provide you some numbers, and I'm going to provide you some places to go. And I really want you to consider setting a visit with us, coming in, and let's talk about what it means for you to enjoy a biblically based retirement freedom. It just starts with a phone call. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com. Hey folks, this is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards, and we're back here in this segment following a discussion about some of the non-guaranteed, non-abundant tools that people typically rely on for the retirement income. And what we're trying to accomplish is what we call freedom of time, which means you don't have to go to work, which means you have time to do what you really enjoy doing, whether it's spending time with the grandkids, pursuing hobbies, fishing, biking, traveling around the world, or just staying at home and working in the garden, whatever it is that really gets you excited, volunteering at church, spending time with your friend group, whatever that is, we want time to do that, right? And actually to create that time, we need to have money. So the obstacle is having to go to work. The solution is abundant guaranteed income. And the non-guaranteed tools aren't going to get you there. Frankly, just relying on the old rule of 4% with your portfolio, relying on dividends, relying on CDs. And another one where I have a lot of people, especially in in or near retirement, that are really focused in on owning property that you can either allow just to appreciate, or even better, to appreciate but rent out in order to generate an income. And I want to remind you that the real estate market is just that, right? It's like going to a flea market. Sometimes there's deals in the market, right? That means the market is down. And sometimes the market is overpriced, right? Whether you're shopping for a new set of dishes or whether you're shopping for a house, there's variation. We call that risk, because now we're talking about very large amounts of money. And when you commit those dollars, first of all, you remove the liquidity, which is okay, but you need to understand that though that income may be something that comes to you pretty regularly, it's not guaranteed. I literally spoke to one of my dear clients yesterday who said, hey, I've got 2 rentals and one of my long-term renters is moving out, right? So that immediately creates a cash flow crisis. If you've got a mortgage or a note on that property, that means now you're in the hole. And even if you don't have a mortgage, you're still on the hook for taxes and maintenance and insurance. And so you got to be really careful about 100% relying on your income from real estate, because it's not guaranteed. Also, the market has a tendency to adjust, right? Now, when you own something, you call that a collapse, right? But when you're buying, you call it, the market resetting and getting its prices back to normal. We've seen that in our markets, right? After all the inflation that surged in 21, 22, we saw real estate values just fly upwards, right? And I've been watching my home value go up, but now it's back down 25% from its peak in 2022 all the way till now. Am I worried about it? No, I'm not selling. I'm not buying. It's not really a concern to me. But if you're selling, it's a concern, right? And it can mess with your timing. So recognize that you've got the same risks as the stock market. We saw this happen in the great collapse of 2006, 7, 8, when prices dropped by extreme levels. And people were bankrupted, especially those who were leveraged. I had a dear man come in, first to see me as a prospective client with $12 million of real estate, and then a couple years later to see me looking for a job because he had been wiped out. So we've got to be careful about putting all our eggs in that basket. Can we supplement our income? Sure. Can it be fun if you enjoy fixing things up? Absolutely. But just recognize that there is risk. There may not be abundant income also. Sometimes when I analyze this with my clients, I just say, okay, take the value of your rental. Maybe you've got a $500,000 rental. And maybe you're getting, $25,000 in rent a year. Great, fantastic. But, you've got taxes and insurance, homeowners fees, maybe even management fees. And at the end of the day, you're only netting half that, $12,000. Well, now all of a sudden you're getting a little over 2% return on your investment. Is that worth it? As a friend of mine says, is the juice worth the squeeze, as they say? It may not be. Now, you could self-manage, right? Remove that cost, but still, if you've got a homeowners association, I've got another client friend of mine getting pummeled by the homeowners association, killing their income. So please, back it up. Now, we're going to shift gears into some of those guaranteed abundant tools. So if portfolio withdrawals, dividends, CDs, real estate, or if these are examples of income sources that are non-guaranteed, that are also potentially non-abundant, they don't provide a high enough level of income for what you paid for them, then we need to talk about the guaranteed solution. So first, let me talk about the ones you're really familiar with. For my listeners who are going to use Social Security in retirement, that's 99% of you, right? We've got some educators and government workers that may not be able to use Social Security, but you hopefully have a pension, which is the second source of guaranteed abundant income. Well, when we're talking about Social Security, I like to call these defined benefit solutions. That means it's in writing. Here's your benefit. It's guaranteed, right? It's guaranteed, and hopefully it's abundant. Your Social Security, it just depends on the highest 30 years of earnings that you have. And remember, there's an earnings cap. I talked to someone yesterday who had kind of an outsized earnings during some years and lower earnings in others. And their spouse, who earned less over the lifetime career, actually had a higher Social Security benefit by a few dollars. It's really funny. Well, that's because their income was more consistent. But if your income is lumpy and shoots up and over that earnings cap that's used to determine your benefits, then you may not have as big a benefit as you thought. But here's the thing. Let's get real serious about Social Security. I know you want to disregard it. I know you want to think it's not going to be there, but it is a tool. It is something you have paid into for your lifetime, and you should be serious as a heart attack about it. For many people, this could be anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of your retirement income. And now, by the way, we're seeing a lot of really nice benefits. I'm seeing households in their mid-60s who both worked hard with combined benefits of $6,000 to $7,000 a month. That's a lot of money. And by the way, with the myriad of rules in Social Security, which exceed the number of rules that govern our tax code remarkably, do you realize that we have run illustrations with our software? We're very sophisticated in the ways that we help you calculate your Social Security and how it should fit into your overall income. We call it optimizing your Social Security, not just maximizing it, getting the biggest check, but taking it at the right time also, which sometimes might be a little earlier than the maximum benefit would require. So when we optimize your Social Security, we've seen differences in your wealth over your lifespan of between $250,000 and $500,000 less income or more income, depending on how you took your Social Security. Does that make a difference to you? Does that mean that you should maybe work with a specialist in abundant guaranteed income sources? Oh yeah, because your accumulation-oriented advisor who got you here can't get you there, right? That's a phrase we use. What got you here won't get you there. Marshall Goldsmith wrote a wonderful book by that title, talking about how we need to shift strategies when we're in different phases of business and in life. And so in just a moment here, I'm going to tell you how to get a hold of us, because I think it's vital that we sit down and have a lovely conversation around your goals, dreams, and values, what retirement means to you, whether a biblically based retirement is something you're striving for, and how you can make sure you never run out of money as part of your overall plan. It just starts with a simple phone call. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com. Hey folks, this is Colin Richards, and once again, I'm thrilled to be back with you here talking about how you can enjoy a biblically based retirement freedom. That's what we're all about at Lord and Richards. We base our teaching and we base our choices when we develop your comprehensive retirement freedom roadmap on values from the Word of God, right? So as a faith-driven company, we serve everybody that comes to us. But our clients who are wired towards biblical values will find resonance with us that you may not find elsewhere. An understanding of why you prioritize maybe some things that you do, ministry that you do, and also your legacy intentions, motives, and goals. So this becomes very important as part of a comprehensive plan that includes tax planning, estate planning, risk management, healthcare planning. We also look at how we can make sure you never run out of money before running out of life. We want freedom of time, freedom of health, freedom of wealth in retirement. And that starts with getting free of your job. That's the obstacle in the way of your freedom of time. Now, you may love it and continue to do it, but we want you to do it because you love it, not because you have to work to pay for what you really want to do. And so freedom of time is dependent on guaranteed abundant income that replaces that paycheck that you used to get from work, that allows you to be financially free. And the sources that don't work are the old sources we've always been told. The old 4% withdrawal rate from your portfolio is broken. Dividend stocks are not reliable, guaranteed, and abundant. CDs, not abundant. In addition, real estate, though fun, though a lot of potential to build wealth, not guaranteed and sometimes not abundant. So as we shift gears, we say, what is guaranteed? What is abundant? We've been talking about defined benefit solutions where you know you're going to get a paycheck, such as your Social Security. And then in addition, what about pensions, right? There's pensions from businesses. And I want to be careful that I don't undermine your confidence, but not all business pensions work out. The airlines, notorious for this, a lot of pilots and other employees lost their pensions due to mergers. And so we want to be careful about that. Often we may want to have some type of insurance in the background, some type of background or backup source in case something goes wrong with that pension, and we're reliant on just the bare minimum that's required by the pension association. But then there's government pensions. Now that's super reliable, right? If we've got a U.S. military pension, most state pensions we can count in this category, educators' pensions, defined benefit solutions. The problem with both Social Security, though, and government pensions is we don't get a choice. We just get the income. But what about adding to that? Or what if you don't have a government pension? How are we going to do that? Right? Well, we need more generally than just Social Security. So we need to have other guaranteed abundant tools in our pocket. And one of the tools that I think needs to be given some consideration as part of our portfolio, if income is a need, and if safety is your game, is principal protected annuities. Now, not all of your money needs to be put in an annuity. And unfortunately, if somebody's just a life insurance agent, an annuity salesperson, they're not a fiduciary, they don't offer other tools, then you may be finding yourself pigeonholed, right? Where too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. And most annuities, though, when used properly, are going to provide a service to you. Number one, the principal is protected if it's the right kind of annuity. If you have what's called a variable annuity, that is not the case. And I would suggest looking for an upgrade there because your principal is at risk. Number two, you can grow often with market indexed growth. That means when the S&P 500 goes up, you go up. And you're protected on the downside. That sounds too good to be true, but literally, we'll talk about this in future segments. There are tools where you can participate in the up of the market and none of the down. One direction, up only, never down. You say, that's too good to be true. I've been taught not to believe that. Well, folks, sometimes we learn there are things that are good, that are helpful, that are useful. We just haven't been informed. And so in addition to principal protection, in addition to guaranteed no downside and growth as well, we have an income that is guaranteed. And these types of solutions have helped millions and millions of Americans to develop a completely free sense of time in retirement. By having an abundant income on top of your Social Security and other sources, you now have the opportunity to live the life and have the fulfillment and pursue the dreams and goals that you've always looked forward to. Now, some of you actually own annuities, and I'm not an annuity basher. I think there are a lot of investment advisors who do that, and they do that really to their own shame and their clients' detriment. Because if I'm a mechanic Or take it another level. If I'm a doctor, I want all the tools out on the table, right? I'm not going to eliminate tools. There's very few tools that I'm going to say are immoral or that are completely wrong. And in this case, the right kind of annuity can have low fees, guaranteed principal, guaranteed income for life, and great potential for growth. You just got to work with an income or distribution specialist. And you know what? That's what we are at Lord & Richards. We specialize in helping you develop freedom of time, freedom of health, freedom of wealth as part of your retirement freedom roadmap. And we would be excited to work with you. We'd love to sit down, have a chat, and discuss your retirement future. It simply starts with a phone call. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Lord & Richards Wealth Management, LLC.